The objective today is to solve and graph inequalities. What are inequalities? Algebraic expressions that are not equal. So let's observe these two examples. In the first one, we have x greater than 5. That means that x has many solutions. For example, 6 is greater than 5. So for this inequality, 6 can be a solution. Another solution could be 100. 100 is greater than 5, but is 5 a solution? Is 5 greater than 5? Well, in this case, 5 is not greater than 5, so 5 will not be a solution. So how do we represent these solutions on the number line? We know that 5 is not a solution, so we draw an open circle on 5. That open circle means that 5 is not included, but any number greater than 5 will be a solution. So we need to draw an arrow facing to the right, and that will represent all the numbers greater than 5. What about the next one? The next one reads x less or equal than negative 3. When we have this little line below the symbol, that means that it's also equal. So, for example, negative 4 will be a solution. Negative 4 is less or equal than negative 3. Another solution could be negative 102 is less or equal than negative 3. Now, in this case, is negative 3 less or equal than negative 3? Well, in this case, negative 3 is equal than negative 3. So negative 3 will be a solution. So how do we represent this on the number line? So in this case, we are going to draw a closed circle on negative 3, and this means that negative 3 is included in our solution. So negative 3, anything less than that will be a solution. So you draw a line towards the left, and then the arrow represents that this arrow goes infinite to the left. That means any number to the left of negative 3 will be a solution. So, how do we know which number is greater or less? Remember, the number that is eaten by this crocodile, by this symbol, is greater than the other number. So, if the openness of the symbol is towards 16, this reads 16 greater than 3. In the next example, the openness or the crocodile is eating 23, so the openness of the symbol is towards 23, so this reads 2 is less than 23. Let's graph the following inequalities on the number lines. So in the first one it says x should be greater than 2. So remember, 2 is not included. 2 is not greater than 2. So we graph an open circle on 2. That means that 2 is not included. So any number greater than 2, that will be the arrow pointing towards the right. So that represents, that's the graph of x greater than 2. What about the next one? X less or equal than 0. So we have that little symbol below the less than symbol. That means that 0 is included. So we draw a closed circle on 0, and that means that 0 is included in the solution, and then any number less than that will be a solution. So we need to draw the arrow less than 0, so the arrow must be pointing to the left. But how do we solve inequalities? Well, you solve inequalities the same way you solve for equations. And if you remember how to do that, is isolate the variable using inverse operations. If you don't remember how to solve equations, I have a video here where I explain how to solve equations easily. I am going to leave the link here in the description. So let's try to solve some inequalities. So I am going to solve the inequality and then grab the solution on the number line. So we have x plus 3 must be greater than 10. Here I am going to divide my inequality left and right the same way that I do for equations. So the goal is to isolate x. That means leave x by itself in the left side. But how do I do that? Well, using inverse operations. If I want to get rid of that 3, that is adding my x, I need to subtract 3. That will be the inverse operation of addition. And that will cancel that out. But to balance the inequality, whatever operation you do to the left, don't forget to do it to the right also. So I need to do 10 minus 3 in the other side. So in my left side, I have x greater, and then I do 10 minus 3, 7. So now that my variable is isolated in the left side, I am done. The answer is x should be greater than 7. So how do you grab the solution? So open circle on 7. 7 is not included. And then x is greater than that. So any number greater than 7, the arrow should be pointing to the right. If you want to check, choose any number greater than 7. So I'm going to choose 8. If you substitute that number here, the inequality must be true. So let's check. 8 plus 3 must be greater than 10. So 11 is greater than 10? Yes. So I check that my answer works. What about the next one? X divided by 3 or x over 3 less or equal than 2. So I divide my inequality left and right. I need to isolate my variable. I need to get rid of that 3 that is dividing my x. So the inverse operation of division will be multiplication. So if I multiply by 3, these 2 will simplify to 1x, and that's what you want. But don't forget the balance. If you multiply by 3 in the left side, you also need to do it in the right side. So I have x less or equal than 6. So my variable is isolated, so I'm done. That will be the solution. Let's graph. So in this case, x can be equal than 6. So I need to draw a closed circle on 6, and the answer is less or equal. So any number less will be to the left of that point. So my arrow, I am going to draw it pointing to the left. Let's try this inequality. So I divide left and right. You need to isolate x. In this case, we have 2x minus 4, so you need to get rid of these two numbers. And remember that we're doing inverse operations, so we need to do the inverse of the order of operations. So I need to get rid of the 4 first. If it's minus 4, the inverse operation will be plus 4. That will cancel out those 4's, but whatever you do to the left, don't forget to do the same to the right. So I am going to add 4 to the other side. In the left side, I have 2x greater, and then you need to do negative 24 plus 4. That will be negative 20. But x is not isolated. Now I need to get rid of that 2 that is multiplying my x. So the inverse operation will be division. If I divide 2 by 2, I get 1x, and that's the purpose. Don't forget the balance. If you divide by 2, don't forget to divide by 2 also in the right side. So now you have x, or 1x, greater than negative 10. So my variable is isolated. I'm done. How do you graph the solution? X greater than negative 10. Negative 10 is not included, so you do an open circle on negative 10, and then any number greater than that is to the right of that number, so the arrow is going to be pointing to the right. Okay, so now is your turn. Graph the following inequalities and then solve the inequalities and graph the solution. Good luck! Don't forget to like this video, share, and subscribe. Follow me on my social media, Instagram and Twitter @NumeritosTv, and you can suggest the next objective. Thank you.